Hi, I'm Dave Boyd with the Potter Shop Hollow Tree Farm and Portable Sawmill, but I'm not at my portable sawmill today. I'm visiting my friend Tom Sommer, who has an HD 36 V2 sawmill. And what we're going to do today is replace Tom's ceramic guides on his mill with Norwoods 4-axis roller guide. Norwoods roller guides apply downward pressure on the blade and provide precise control of the lead angle for a straight cut through the log. And if you have any questions or run into a snag in the installation of the roller guide system, Norwood's expert technical support staff is just an email or phone call away. Start by removing the operator's side ceramic guide and the trunnion block from the bracket. It's easier to do this with the blade off the mill. There we go. Then remove the bracket and the trunnion block from the non-operator's side. So it's easiest to just go ahead and loosen that set screw. And you can slide that clear out. And it helps to have a couple of extensions. Remove the bottom long sleeve bolt on the back right-hand side. And the nuts from the bottom two shield bolts. So I'm going to skip over to part C of the manual because in my head that just makes more sense to do right here at this point. But if you've already been running your mill and you've got everything dialed in, you've been cutting lumber with the ceramic guides, this probably won't be necessary for you. As long as I've got the blade off, Norwood has a kind of a rule of thumb for your belt tension, and it's always good to check that out. And basically, if you can turn that belt a quarter turn by hand, about like that, then it's about the right tension. If you can't turn it that far, then it's too tight. And if you can turn it more than that, which I can, but it's not easy, but if you can turn it more than a quarter turn, then you might want to tighten it up a little. And if you're just setting up your mill for the first time, of course you want to make sure your band wheels are lined up. Norwood recommends that you do that with the string test. I've got another way that I do it, and that is just pull out on it like it's got tension on it. Put a tape measure on it, looks like 1 7/8. Come to the other side, put the tape measure on it, 1 7/8, and you're good to go. So, since this mill has already been cutting lumber, everything's lined up, this just shows it that this technique does work. Install the blade, positioning it on the band wheels so that the bottom of the gullet is even with the outside edge of the band wheel. To test the tracking, bring the blade up to full tension and give the band wheel a few spins. The bottom of the gullet should continue to track even with the edge of the band wheel. In this case, the blade is tracking a little too far out, so I'll bring it in by tightening the tracking bolt until it stays in the right place. There, that's more what we want right there. And of course we'll make the same adjustment on the other side. Now I'm going to check the blade for parallel to the cross bunks. And you will not find this technique in any sawmill manual. So, you saw it here first. What I have is just a magnetic pickup tool, which belongs in your toolbox anyway. Stick it to the blade and adjust it until it's touching the cross bunk. There we go, just barely drags across it. Then, all you have to do is run it across the cross bunk, test it again, and you can see it is really dragging across there. Looks like the band wheel on the operator side is about a 1/16 inch lower than the one on the non-operator side. The bolt is 16 treads per inch, so a full turn of the adjustment nut should just about get it. You can either raise the carriage on the operator's side or lower it on the non-operator's side. I'll just go ahead and raise the operator's side. There we go. Now we're just touching there. And just touching there, okay? So that's exactly what we want. Assemble the non-operator's side trunnion block. It needs to pivot freely, so if it's tight, just back it off a little bit. That's where you want it. Okay. Next, install the ceramic discs in the adjustable receiver. They should just be even with or a little below the top of the receiver. Snug them down so they don't fall out. There we go. Attach the ceramic guide assembly to the trunnion block. One side is beveled, and the other is square, and your ceramic guide goes in this way, into the square end. It should slide freely, but just push it all the way in for now. Next, these two bolts adjust the lead angle or the pitch of the blade up and down. Just finger tight for now, but what you want to do is have them adjusted pretty much so that it is parallel along this groove right here. And we'll just go finger tight, but enough that it doesn't slip on us. When you put the guide roller on the axle, make sure that that back collar goes on the solid part of the axle this way. And then the washer. And then the nut. And then you'll need to get that in a vise and really get that nut tightened down. So we'll put the shaft in the trunnion block and then put in the retaining bolt. And then just snug it down just enough that that shaft doesn't come out. Alright, and that is what it should look like. Okay, now we'll do the other trunnion block, and it goes together this way. And again, we want this to be parallel. And that won't be exact, but it'll be pretty close. Okay, so we're going to start out with the blade tracking true on the band wheels. Now I'm going to back it off about 2 full turns, just so that I've got a little bit more give to it when I set my down pressure. Bolt the non-operator side guide bracket in place. Start out with the shield bolts loose enough to let it slide. Then snug down the long sleeve bolt. And they tell you not to over tighten this bolt right here, because if you do over tighten, it will distort the plastic and it won't slide up and down on the track. So I call that good enough. Then tighten down the shield nuts good and tight. There we go. Those can be good and snug. So I'll go ahead and attach the guide roller on the non-operator side. And that is going to mount right here. And you want it just to where it's tight enough to contain it, but it still slides freely. And that's all you need. And we'll put on the operator's side trunnion block. Again, needs to be able to adjust up and down. So it looks like we're good there. The safety shield needs a new mounting hole. 1.5 inches and over 7/8. That should be pretty close. A 1/4 inch drill bit works just fine. It'll make it a little easier to line up when mounting the safety shield after changing the blade. There we go. Alright, with everything in place, that blade guard bolts right into the roller spindle. About 1/8 of an inch behind the back of the blade. So you just kind of push it in all the way against the blade and then back about 1/8 of an inch and tighten it down there. Just snug it for now. We'll tighten everything down later. You do not want the back of the blade in contact with that collar during normal cutting. That's just if you're pushing extra hard for some reason to make sure that the blade doesn't deflect back. Alright, so the manual says we need about 3/16. I've also heard 1/4 inch down pressure, and that is how hard that guide is pushing down on the blade. And the question is, how do you do that? Well, it's not that hard. What I have done is determined that 3 pennies and a dime are real close to 3/16 of an inch. Now we're going to drop the blade till it just touches that dime. Just about like that. Then I'm going to push down until it touches that level, like so. And right there is where we need to set that blade. And this is where it takes 3 hands, 1 to hold it and 2 to turn the wrenches. So, Tom, if you want, just grab the combination wrench only, go around to the back side and hold this top nut. Top nut, yeah. That's pretty good.
It seems to be turning. We hold the bottom one? Okay.
Yeah, the bottom one now. Okay, release. Setting the guide for the non-operator side is much easier if you use a bar clamp to hold the trunnion block to the bracket. Then close the clamp until the blade touches the top of the level. So we're back flush with the level, and that's where we'll tighten her down. We're going to check the blade for a parallel. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the monks themselves are level. So I put level on the level, kind of redundant, but it is absolutely perfectly centered, which is what I want. Now I'll put the level on the blade itself and make sure that you find a tooth that's bent down for the set. And I can see right now that the blade is really tipped up, so to level it, we have to tip it down a little bit, which means I'll loosen the back bolt and tighten the front bolt. There, you can see that bubble move now. And we're just going to get it centered. And that looks real close. So I'll come back around, tighten the back side. Now I'm going to kind of work back and forth between them and keep that bubble right in the middle. There we go. And that should be just about perfect. Now we'll do the ceramic guide. I'm going to raise that ceramic guide up just a little bit so you can see it on the camera better. Now just hold it. I want the front of that ceramic guide to just about be even with, or maybe just a little bit behind the bottom of the gullet. So that should be pretty close where it needs to be. I'm going to drop it down and then just hold it just so it stays in place for now. Take a business card and fold it in half, and then put that folded card between the roller guide and the blade so that it presses down just a little bit more. Then you can loosen up your ceramic guide and just press it right up against the blade. Tighten it down. And pull your paper out. Now you have the exact position you need for that ceramic guide. And it's that easy. And of course we're ready to go ahead and do the guide block on the other side. Now I got to do the water, and the main thing to watch out for on the water is this is plastic thread, so be careful threading it in. Don't cross thread it. And the other piece goes on the back side. The water feed isn't under pressure, so the fittings don't need to be much more than finger tight. Then you're ready to connect the water line. Finally, since the guides push the blade down about 3/16 of an inch, you'll need to recalibrate the scale to match the new blade height. Looks like I'll need to calibrate the scale to 8 11/16. Now you should be all set. Okay, so now you've done that, everything is adjusted as it should be. Then bring your blade up to full operating tension and make one final check on your alignment. And that sounds good. There's no scraping sound. Guide wheels are spinning, not dragging on the ceramic guides, and the tracking looks just perfect. So we are ready to go. In addition to the roller guides, Tom is upgrading to Norwood's new Stella Cut blade.
Okay. Wow. Nice and smooth. Oh, that looks fantastic. You don't see any daylight under that.
Gonna work for you.
Oh, that's gonna work good. It's fantastic. You know,
Good. Well,
nice straight cuts.
good and straight cuts. You might just, check it every now and then, make sure that everything's level and still within calibration, especially after the, maybe first couple of logs or so. And after that, I mean, you gotta go and mill.
I really appreciate it, Dave. Yeah, I think it's going to work out real well for me.
I think so too. Well, we'll keep in touch on it.
All right.
And it's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
All right.